Oh, that's nice. We all need to note that the Zoom app logs people out about 40 minutes because we are not using the paid session. I think they just integrate that uh, some time ago. So we need to be watchful of time. In 40 minutes, we need to log in again. I think this is how the Zoom app has been scrutinized.
Mine doesn't log out after 40 minutes.
Oh, really?
I don't
Okay,
get
no
logged out
problem.
Yeah.
either. I somehow I never get logged out of Zoom.
Oh, oh, all right. It's fine since the moderator alongside the facilitator
Esther, do you have your
doesn't.
hand up?
I said it's fine. It's fine that way. I think it's
No,
it's
no,
fine.
you were the one that set up this link, so it might log us out after 40 minutes.
No, I've switched the host to professor.
Mm,
I think it's fine that
okay.
way.
So we'll just wait
Okay.
and see if it does. If it gives us a notice that it's going to log out, we just let people know that they can come back.
Yes, using the same link.
Mhm. I really do hope that it doesn't, though.
It's fine anyway. Uh, I think this
Esther, do you have
presentation
a
will be.
question? I see you have your hand up. Someone has their hand up.
Esther, Esther, love, do you have a question? Okay, without much ado, let's kickstart the session. I welcome you all to the online masterclass session organized by the Masterclass Initiative in collaboration with the Woman Save House. Um, this session we're having Professor Arab from Kuwait, who is going to be talking on the subject matter woman empowerment in the post-COVID-19 era. And we have our moderator here, Barrister Oluwaseun. I'll just give a brief description about her. Uh, Barrister Oluwaseun Folajuwon is a lawyer, a woman and gender rights advocate here in Nigeria. She is the principal partner at Folujuwon Banjo and Co., the program manager at Women Savers as well. She offers a pro bono legal services to women and girls facing gender-based violence in Nigeria. She is the founder of the Saving Cross Justice Point, Foundation, and doubles as the CEO of Crystallize Creation and Crafts. Barrister Oluwaseun is also in charge of supervision and coordination of operations at Saving Cross Justice Point, where she also focuses on rendering free legal services to indigent members of the community and indigent inmates. This time, I would like to welcome Barrister Folajuwon Banjo to moderate the session. Welcome, Barrister Sheung.
Mm.
It's good to
Thank
have you here.
you. Thank you. Good to see everyone here. Thank you very much, Papa.
Yes.
Okay, so we go straight into today's program. I would like to give the introduction of our facilitator of today. So in this slide, I'd like to welcome everyone again, ladies and gentlemen, everyone that has made it, has kept this appointment to be here today. Professor AREZOU HARRAF, Head of Department and Assistant Professor, Boss Hill College, Kuwait, inspiring Head of Business Studies and CEO with expertise in higher education, e-learning, and human resources. She's a passionate senior executive and advisor and thought leader with more than 15 years of success across the education, human resource, and nonprofit industry. Our broad areas of expertise include business strategy, curriculum development, staff development, and teaching and training. She holds a leadership position as the head of Department of Business Studies and assistant professor for Box Hill College, Kuwait, where she leads a team of 9 professors and oversees all course content. She also engages with various governmental and industry bodies and updates the curriculum regularly to ensure the curriculum is current and in line with industry needs. She also serves as the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder for AREZOU Workforce Solutions, where she addresses the gap in sustaining a culture of inclusion and belonging for the entirety of the workforce. Before her role at AREZOU Workforce Solutions, she additionally leads as a visiting assistant professor for the University of Nevada and the adjunct professor and thesis supervisor for Maastricht School of Management. AREZOU obtained her PhD in technology management and human resource training and development from Indiana State University, as well as a Master's of Science in organizational leadership from Quinnipiac University. She has also received a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and International Relations from the University of Nevada. AREZOU also received a certification in Society for Human Resource Management and Human Resource Institutions. She's a chairwoman of Women in Business for American Business Council, Kuwait, as well as is a member International Institution for Engineers and Researchers. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's give a round of applause to welcome our facilitator today. Please let's turn on our microphones and welcome Ms. AREZOU to today's meeting. Nice to have you.
Well, thank you, Oluwaseun and Babatunde, for a very welcoming and very nice note of introduction. I really appreciate it. I would like to add to Oluwaseun's introduction and thank everyone for attending. We're going to have an interesting discussion hopefully today. As we all know, COVID-19 has impacted all of us. Around the globe, there's not a place that hasn't been impacted. However, what's been noteworthy is that this impact has been more adverse and more severe on women. Today, we're just going to look at some of the areas where women have been most impacted. What are the reasons for this impact and why this has occurred? How can we help, and the way for thinking forward? How can we use this as an opportunity to discuss and take action going forward? So why is it that women have been impacted by COVID-19? Many women, the UN reports that 70% of all health and social services workers globally are women. When COVID-19 occurred, these were the first people that were impacted. Okay, so the impact on them were severe. They were the first ones either to be impacted by being laid off and sent home, or the ones that were, in frontline and danger lines. Women also make up substantial service jobs such as retail, cleaning services, hospitality, and etc. Those industries were also impacted severely, and as such, the jobs of women with were jeopardized. Historically speaking, women earn less than men. This is a global phenomenon. It's not true for every single organization, but it is true for many organizations. Women make 79 to 80% or sometimes less to $1 a man makes for the same job. So when their jobs go, they have less security, they have less savings, they have less backup. So when such events happen, they're more financially at risk. Moreover, a lot of women are single parents, and if they are not working and if they're sent home with service jobs, they're not earning for their family. So that again impacts them more severely than they would in joint households. The women also carry a lot of the joint parenting obligations. Women are generally taking care of the household and working. And with the advent of COVID and them having to work at home, a lot of them weren't able to maybe balance that because the kids are home and they're not, receiving any much help otherwise. And another, more societal aspect of it, other than the economic aspect of it, is an increased risk of domestic violence. Usually in these such cases, women had been able to rely on the society and get out and seek assistance. However, with the lockdown, not only their economic situation, their health situation, but also their safety situation was jeopardized. These are some of the reasons why, and we're going to look at them more in depth. Women have been more adversely impacted by COVID-19. So the pandemic is showing what the pandemic is doing is showing the inequalities. The system has always been inequitable in terms of gender parity in the workplace, but the pandemic is putting that into the forefront. People can right now feel very well and more tangibly than other times that this pandemic is creating a sort of a havoc for people, and they can see in a more clear way that, how is this impacting them, and, what are the inequities. The inequities that you can see in terms of the gender gap, it's in social policies, it's in political policies, economic system, and the pandemic has just put forth, in light for the social system. A lot of women that are, working from home, especially in emerging economies, they don't have the protections that men have. They don't have the cushions, the job security, and so on. Politically and economically, they're not as involved in the policy making, decision making, and therefore their interests are not as prominent as comparing to their male counterparts. So all of this has come to the forefront during COVID. The protections for women, in COVID has been a lot less. It's just as simple as that. By the virtue of their sex, they have been put at a disadvantage because all these economic, political, and social disparities have come to light and, shown us that there is a big gap, and, shown us that why are these gaps existing. So the women who are generally earning less than men, they have less job security. So that women generally around the globe, and this is not quintessential to a single country, women that are not in high skilled jobs, they live very close to poverty globally. So anything that happens to their job security just pushes them down that road. The health of women generally adversely impacted through reallocation of resources. When the resources and priorities such as the welfare or the health assistance or food assistance are diverted to other services, definitely the first impact to be felt is by women. Women work provide care for the school, the older persons, the overwhelmed, the sick in the family, as well as their job. Any such disruption in the life also affects women in a more adverse way. A lot of women, like recently, to fortify, their income, they were working, for example, as Uber driver or having an Instagram business. These jobs, while great at augmenting people's income, they don't really provide for them the cushion or any financial assistance from government, or, doesn't give them any unemployment rights, healthcare rights, and so on. And these are some of the issues that economically have been compounded to make the impact on women worse during COVID. Layoffs are generally, again, in the retail and hospitality, which is definitely, affecting women. In developing countries, this is twofold. Even comparing, although the developed countries are not doing very well under this pandemic, the developing countries are doing even worse. If you look at some of the Latin American countries, not only the rate of poverty has risen, the rate of poverty for women have risen substantially, whereas many of them are just under the poverty line. A lot of these people are because the public spaces and social interactions that were supporting their livelihood has diminished. If you ever travel to any of the developing countries, many people work on the streets. They sell their artifacts, they sell their handiwork, they have gig economy, they show things to tourists. All these jobs with zero security has diminished. because of, safety. People have stayed home, people have been asked to quarantine, and all these people have been impacted adversely because of that. The past experience, if you look at the UN data for during Ebola outbreaks in different countries, it shows that the prolonged such pandemics or epidemics have a prolonged impact and dip in women's income in comparison to men. And that is because it will take a woman a while to get back to where they were, because they don't have the support and the cushion and the financial backup that their counterparts enjoy. So how do we mitigate this? Okay, we talked about some of this issue, but what is more important is, yes, we know that there are inequities, and things are not always equal, and we have understood that. But what we need to understand even more, it's how do we mitigate this? Okay, how do we make sure that we understand these gaps, and how do we make sure that what are the steps that we're taking to close this? The first thing that we need to do, it's that we need to, at a macro level, at a country level, we need to negotiate an access to benefits such as health insurance, paid sick, maternity leave, pensions, and unemployment benefits to persons that are participating in the gig and informal economies. Basically, anyone that is contributing to the economy, regardless of the formality of their job, needs to have these cushions, because that will close some of this disparity gap that exists between genders, and this will entitle women to some protections, so in such instances they're not as adversely impacted. Put cash in women's hand. That's the motto that the UN has used time and again. And if you have microfinance, and if the country has programs in place that can directly put money in the hands of women, such as like cash transfers using mobile banking, those having like rent relief and so on, those programs should be advertised by different institutions and allow women to take advantage of it, and kind of educate them as to the existence of such programs. Another measure to take is introduce measures that can either implement with low transaction costs, such as eliminating some bills, if they have small shops, rent relief, if they can't, and anything that can support them and keep them afloat until the pandemic passes, or something that can be done for them in the interim, so that they don't go down under the poverty line. At a micro level, organizations also have responsibilities. So right now, a lot of countries are opening up, and they're asking their workforce to go back to work, albeit that the schools are not open yet. So this will most of the time put the burden on the shoulders of the women to provide also care for their children, make sure they have someone to care for them, and go to work. So one area that this disparity could be addressed is providing child care centers at for the employment cost, because this will enable women to go back to work. Otherwise, they would not be able to go back to work, comparing to male counterparts that they do not have to, or they let their spouse kind of take care of the children. So this would put women at a less adverse impact. Provide nutritional help to children that were receiving food assistance. That is really important, because a lot of people receive food assistance from schools, and that's another burden on women. So if schools or any organizations or whatnot continue to provide this nutritional support, that takes away some of the financial burden and social burden on women. Companies need to look for compensation packages and hiring practices for women, and they make sure that it's equitable. This has shown us that although for many, many years, women have talked about it, research has talked about it, organizations have acknowledged it, but not enough has been done about this. There needs to be an equitable wage, comparable wage for men and women for the same job done. This is very much overdue, and it's due, and it needs to happen, because this is something that can make a huge difference in terms of women's sustainability and their income, and they will not. If this sustainability exists, next time around, women may be not as severely impacted. Women need to be given, in terms of the gap to close, organizations have to assess, are they equitable in educating and further educating their workforce? And how that gets done, it's through access to further education, training and development, corporate programs that support organizational leadership, fair promotion, making sure that the women have the competencies in, as their counterparts in getting promoted, and their wages, benefits, and so on are reflected in that, whereas they are getting paid for the same amount of work equitably. The final note of that would be, like, COVID, although has highlighted gender gaps in spheres of society, the economic realities of women's participation in the society has changed. Many policies and government levels and corporations still favor men, whereas in many countries, men are still viewed as breadwinners. And that is a major issue in terms of policy, both on macro level and country level and in micro level. The realities have changed. A lot of women are participating in the society just in part with men. And it is just about time for them to be able to, earn as much as men. It's just about time for them to be able to, receive as much as men and be recognized for the work that they're doing, which is comparable to men. This has not happened yet. However, the economic situation in the world kind of requires that many people go to work. So while that has changed, people's mentality and attitude hasn't changed. And that is something that needs to be worked on, because that is one of the primary reasons why women are economically disadvantaged. It's because of that, system of thought. The women bear the burden of the work-life balance, and a lot of organizations, I know, like in the US, and I'm not very familiar with elsewhere, but a lot of organizations do provide work-life balance. However, people that take advantage of those are ostracized. They're looked at as people who are lazy or maybe not as committed, and they don't want to come to work. And those are the people that sometimes get overlooked for promotions. So while those perks are available for women, they are not comfortable or happy to take those because they're going to be ostracized and looked upon as not as committed to work. Those are some of the things that need to be looked at, particularly after COVID that has happened, because, since people could work remotely and organizations made them work remotely and the work could be done sufficiently, this can demonstrate that there is no stigma in having people, work from home and, giving them like more flexibility so they can balance their childcare and work. If they could work, if you ask them to work during COVID, you should be able to continue this policy of allowing them to work at home if need be, without, overlooking them for a promotion, or without this affecting their performance, or without them being left out of the company. So these are all challenges that have to be overlooked. The challenges are both at a macro level, policy level, and micro level. What are the thoughts of this going ahead? There is a lot of things that need to be discussed and looked at. The economic gap at a macro level, I think we need to push for identifying the gaps in each society and where do they stem from. That would definitely should be a priority for countries to recognize, because when women are affected economically, I mean, the entire GDP, the entire country is affected. So it's not something that's happening in a vacuum. We need to focus on programs and policies that gives more financial and literacy, access to capital to women, microfinancing, literacy in terms of soft skills that women need to get, educated, they need to get a job, they need to negotiate a salary, lobbying on behalf of women for equitable compensation. This needs to be a very important policy agenda where, the rights of women, the, equity for organization, it needs to be discussed. And in the same time, because, social media, public relations does a lot in identifying some of the issues that impact organizations, it's good to highlight employers that actually are equitable, because that will kind of push other employers that are not as equitable to see that, they're being kind of named and shamed for inequitable practices. Other issues that are not organizational, there should be like more literacy on coaching and mentoring opportunities for women, allowing them to participate in different spheres, getting other women mentors. This could happen from K to 12 education within universities, um, and giving women kind of, apprenticeship and any competency-based work. Regardless of that, any opportunity for women to get an equal access as opposed to their counterparts would play a bigger role in allowing for these disparities to go away. This is a very long conversation to be had. These are, very kind of wishful goals, and hopefully those that, can come to fruition, not in a too distant future. So the way I look at it is, although women have been affected very badly by this pandemic, maybe we can use this adverse impact as a growing opportunity in addressing some of these disparities that have gone on for many, many years. And, because now it's on the forefront, I think we can absorb this, we can embrace it, and we can, use the momentum to make a change, both at a macro level and a micro level within our organizations, or by trying our best to impact the societies we live in, so that, next time around, hopefully this doesn't happen, but if such thing happens, we're more prepared and the women are less impacted adversely. Okay, any questions on the slides? I would like to be able to interact, because I wouldn't like to just talk by myself. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Esther.
Yes, well, I can see Esther raising her hand. Esther, please. But ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform us that this meeting will end in the next 10 minutes. I got this notification right now. So once it logs us off, let's kindly log in back, as this meeting has not yet ended. Thank you. So Esther, you have the floor. Please ask your question.
Hi, Esther.
Esther, are you there? Does anyone else have any questions while we wait for Esther? Question, contribution? Yes. Okay, Professor, let me ask my question.
Sure.
I'll first of all paint the scenario. I want to first thank you. Yes, thank you for the lecture, for the enlightenment and everything.
I can't hear you.
This side.
Sorry,
Can you
your
hear
voice,
me?
Yeah, your voice cut off. Can you repeat, please?
Okay, yeah, I haven't asked the question. I'm just trying to paint the scenario now. Here on this side of the continent, talking about Nigeria now, I discovered that most women who or the greater percentage of women that are affected by the pandemic, talking about the economic effects, are the semi-literate or the illiterate, those who didn't go to school. And if you didn't go to school, there is no way you want to, or you have limitations to lobbying for positions and all other things that we have learned here. And I discovered that most women are the breadwinners of their home, even when they are married. They're the ones sponsoring their children to school. They're the ones taking care of the house rent and so many other sundry bills. They're the ones taking care of them. Now, I would like you to please encourage these women on what they can do. I give you an instance. I just left. I saw my fashion designer today, my tailor. So, and she was just telling me about how it's been so difficult. She's the one that pays the children's school fees. She's the one that pays for the house rent. And the shop where she uses for her business, in my presence, the owners of the shop came to harass her today, telling her about how they need to increase the rent and everything. She was just lamenting. So for this kind of woman and other women that found themselves being the, you know, sponsors or the breadwinners of their families, and businesses are not moving like, you know, like before, what advice can you give to them?
The breadwinners, unfortunately, educational gap, it's a serious issue. And this is what puts, you know, something that puts women in a great disadvantage. One thing that can be done for women who don't have maybe access to K-12 education in a traditional or, you know, in a conventional way is to, you know, for these women to seek like a professional training of some sort in any profession, you know, if they have access to professional training, or if they can just kind of form a group and, you know, become their own trades union of some sort, you know, depending on their expertise or their abilities, to form a kind of a collective, you know, union or something that might help them out in, you know, increasing their bargaining power. Another thing that can actually help them is to give, you know, access via any mode. You know, right now a lot of NGOs and whatnot focus on, you know, deliver and perhaps even online learning for these individuals. I think the MasterClass is something that, you know, if expanded, could actually help. You know, if they have access to internet, it's something that, you know, for K to 12 or just like limited level literacy, can help these individuals just, you know, get out of their cycle of, you know, the cycle of economic disadvantage. And hopefully this could work. But I would always say knowledge is power. And if these people have any opportunity, any organization can help these disadvantaged women, it would be great to just give them, you know, a trade or like a competent level at some trade job or any type of education that will help them out.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Does
Thank you.
anyone else have any questions? Okay, there's a question for you. I hope you
Yes,
can see.
go ahead, please.
Let me read the question out. Someone just asked, how do
Okay.
we bring what you have said to reality? Seeing that in Nigeria, we don't get unemployment benefits. And when you do get, you have no assurance of getting pensions, let alone paid sick leave.
So let me understand the question. In Nigeria, you're not entitled for unemployment benefit if you lose your job. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in that specific case, I think that's a macro level issue. Let me also ask this. Do organizations by themselves cover any work compensation if they have to let people go temporarily or permanently? Do organizations have to pay?
Hmm.
That's the question I have because I haven't worked in Nigeria, so that is an area I'm familiar with. But do organizations, are they responsible to give out any payment or not? If they ask you to leave, or do you leave with anything, or do you just leave?
Okay, the system here is that, I mean, what this the person is trying to say is that in Nigeria, you don't have access to unemployment benefits. You know, over there or somewhere outside Nigeria, people get benefits. You're not employed. You're taken care of. That's what we heard. I haven't been there, so um, so this person is asking that in this climb we don't get that kind of opportunity. So if someone doesn't have this kind of opportunity and that person is in a dilemma, what can the person do to
Well, this is
survive?
well, you know, first of all, I would have to say that's a very difficult situation to be in if you get no benefit, and this is another part where women are very much adversely impacted because they're paid less anyway, so they have no savings. I think this is something that has to be addressed at a policy level within the country. Perhaps, the employer unions or people, need to kind of bring this up with the policymakers, because if if instances such as this keep continuing, and I hope they don't, but one has to kind of be prepared for such things happening. It is very important for any of these securities to be in place. I don't know how does this work in Nigeria, but I would say that definitely you need to have conversation with people that put the policies together for you, the employment policies, and see just see like what is it that you need to what is it that what are the sources that are available to you. So at this point, I would suggest having like a community fund or whatnot for the women, for the workers. If you can just contribute to it in good times, and perhaps everybody will be able to kind of take something out in such times. But that is just something to do, but it's never in place of getting adequate compensation for unemployment. So that's at a policy level, and hope that works